Well, good Tuesday evening, everyone. Todd Warren here on Facebook Live tonight, as well as recording for the KTAL Now app that you can download on your streaming TV. Coming up tonight, what we're going to be talking about is an onslaught of warm weather that some of you have been maybe waiting for, as we are going to cool down tomorrow and Thursday. But after that, looks pretty nice here, temperature-wise, across the ArkLaTex. So the details, in fact, take you out a couple weeks. Deeper into the month of February through the middle of February. And of course, today is Tuesday. That means it's grain of salt night. And since it looks like we're going to be warmer for the next few weeks, does that mean that winter is over? I'll show you the latest on rainfall, snowfall, and temperatures for the next 45 days, which will take us through the first half of March. That's coming up later. And also, of course, we'll show you rainfall potential when we'll see our next best chance for rain once what we have out there now moves out, and whether or not we'll have any weather worries to deal with. If you have a question or a comment, feel free to ask away. If you just want to say hello, Todd, that's great too, as we like to go back and forth by starting things off with our hellos. And first on board tonight is, as usual, Brian. Hello there, Brian. Rusty. It was a pretty nice day as temperatures made it to 68 in Shreveport, 69, Rusty, in Texarkana. Brad in WCOK, hello there up in Wright City. Gary, hello to you. All right, as we await more people to join in, let's go ahead and get started. And you can see what's left of today's rainfall, mainly over the southern sections of the ArkLaTex. You can see the scattered, mainly showers with a few pockets of heavier downpours. One of those very well could move across the city of Natchitoches, and once this last wave here moves through, we're probably going to be pretty much done with the rainfall today. And as far as how much rain has fallen, let's give you a look at the latest projections from the radar during the past 24 hours. And really the southern quarter of the area got the majority of the rain. Amounts here, you can see in these areas of green, that's where we've seen a good half an inch to an inch, over 2 inches there south of Winfield. Further to the north, the amounts much lighter. In fact, around my weather station only recorded a tenth of an inch. And you can see we do have a few pockets of some heavier rains, but not much here as far as rain across the northern sections of the area with this frontal system coming in. Outside right now, you can see the colder air beginning to move into the northern sections of the ArkLaTex. We're down to 47 already in DeQueen, 50 in Idabel, but still 63 as of 8 o'clock in Shreveport. 58 degrees is the current temperature in Natchitoches. As again, time lapses. Again, the server that does that failed, and then I failed to move that graphic. But nonetheless, I've reset that, so we should be good to go for the cameras tonight. Anyway, weather worry index. Again, we're going to take you out a couple weeks here for the next 10 days. We will see 2 chances of rain in the next 10 days. One we're ending. Another one will arrive during next week. Actually, a couple next week. A few minor disturbances. Our next best chance of rain could be on next Friday. Still not much concerned about severe weather, although some of the models do show a little bit more instability will be available next Friday. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind as something to keep an eye on here as we move through the rest of this week and next week. All right, good pause point. See who else has chimed in here. Lewis, good evening. Dylan, hey, and Tammy, hello to you. All right, let's move on and show you what's happening here as far as the weather pattern. Again, we have the cold front moving through the area. Here's the broad trough here, which is giving that push to the front. Notice a big old ridge sitting along the west coast right now. This is actually going to break down somewhat and move right over the top of the ArkLaTex here as we look ahead to this weekend. And that means dry. It also means warmer, as you're going to like what you're going to see here as far as this weekend, as it does look like a Chamber of Commerce weekend in store for us. I think I mentioned last night, it could be one of the best weekends of weather that we experience in 2026. Yes, it's going to be that nice. Let's see. Betty, good evening. Still 53% in Louisville. Does that mean 53 degrees maybe, Betty? Eric says it's now 48 degrees in Chile in Colbert, Oklahoma. Eric is over there towards Lake Texoma, obviously further behind the front. And Mary, you have a great evening too. And as always, thanks for watching. All right, let's move ahead to the next couple of days here with a look at the surface weather map with the highs, lows, and fronts on top of Futurecast. And you can see that front are going to bring quite a bit of rain to the east coast and the southeastern U.S. Another little disturbance may squeeze out a few showers to the northwest of the ArkLaTex. Not too concerned about that. And once that front clears Florida, we're going to quiet down here for a good day or so. As you can see, the usual lake effect snows up around the Great Lakes, and maybe a little bit of rain over towards Gary's Place in Palm Springs. But other than that, not really a whole lot here as far as any weather impacts. Again, we're going to warm up. Notice that front coming down, moving into the ArkLaTex here Friday. We're going to warm up Friday into the middle 70s. And then behind this front, it is going to cool us off. We'll go from mid 70s to low 70s. So in other words, the brunt of the cold air with that is going to be well to the east of the ArkLaTex. And as we go into Saturday, you can see the quiet weather continuing here. And we're going to see much of the same heading into Saturday. So pretty smooth sailing here for most of the country during the next 3 or 4 days. A look at Futurecast here up close and personal, and you can see what's left of the rain exiting the ArkLaTex. We will see the clouds decrease across the area tonight. Kind of a mixture of sunshine and clouds tomorrow. Notice the north to northwesterly wind. That is going to keep highs in the 50s tomorrow. So we're going to be about 10 to 15 degrees cooler tomorrow than what we were today. But still, we were almost 10 degrees above normal today, so that's really no big issue. The coldest night of the next 10 days will be tomorrow night, as we'll settle into the upper 20s to low 30s. Notice how those arrows shrank. That's Futurecast telling you that the wind is going to become light, and that is going to basically result in the combination of that and the clear sky to allow temperatures to tumble. And we'll see lots of sunshine for Thursday, and with that wind becoming more westerly, we'll start to see the beginnings of that warming trend that's been advertised. Going through Thursday night looking dry and clear. Friday looks pretty nice with lots of sunshine. And as we head through Friday night into Saturday, you can see the passage of that front as the wind shift to the northeast and then quickly back to the southeast late in the day on Saturday. So pretty much smooth sailing here once we get the rain that's currently in place out of here. Let's see. Austin, hello there in Plano, Texas. Betty says, yep. All right. Oh, you love warm weather. Well, you're in the right place, Austin. I noticed you said warm and not hot. Annette in DeQueen, hello to you. Hopefully you're doing well up there in DeQueen and Sevier County. Let's move on and talk about the next 10 days here. Grain of salt time. This is on grain of salt night. This is the mini grain of salt where we just talk about the next few weeks. And you can see that trough moves out. Here comes the upper level ridge, kind of weakening, but still strong enough to keep us dry and to warm us up. We'll see the axis of that ridge move across the ArkLaTex this weekend. And once we get into this southwesterly flow, beginning of next week, we'll see at least a chance for some rain. I think it's probably going to hold off until Monday night or Tuesday. And nothing really big at first, and then a more substantial disturbance comes in late in the week on Friday, and that will have a little bit more instability. I would think it is possible we could have a marginal just based on the current instability numbers with that. Obviously, we're 10 days out from that, so it's going to change. But as I mentioned, it is something to keep an eye on here as we move through the next 10 days. The key here is that we're going to be warming up, and it looks like we're going to stay warm, as you'll see here in a second. Let's talk rainfall, and you can see the latest from the Weather Prediction Center. This will take us through next Monday. Shows maybe another 1/4 of an inch over the southeastern sections of the area. That's probably includes some of what is falling right now. So that's probably not going to be new rain. Here's a look at the Blenda models. Again, notice the numbers at the bottom, and that's the current rain that's falling. And notice how they change. So all total, with the rain over the southern sections of the area falling on top of, including, I should say, rain that's expected next week, we will see amounts that will be pretty close to 1/2 an inch to maybe 3/4 around the area, and there's pretty good model agreement too, showing very similar numbers. Could take place pretty much anywhere. Notice the blend does have close to an inch up there in the Queen, so northern parts of the ArkLaTex, if this is correct, could bring us, or at least see a little bit better chance for some heavier rains. I mentioned the model agreement. Here's a look at 6 different samples of models from DeQueen southward to Natchitoches, and you can see how there's not much difference between each one. So generally speaking, half an inch to an inch, we might see a few spots pick up an inch to an inch and a half. That's how I read this right now. And you might recall yesterday the GFS had 4.5 inches in DeQueen, and you can see it's down to a half an inch, more realistic. So it was definitely an outlier in yesterday's model runs. Let's take you out 2 weeks with the GFS, and you can see it does show a swath of heavier rains over the northern sections of the area as we go deeper in time. So this takes us out 2 weeks. Again, the model blends numbers that I just showed you in the various models, those were 10 days. So this goes out a little bit deeper. So we might see a little bit more rain as far as in the 10 to 14 day period. What does that mean for next weekend? We'll see. It looks like the brunt of Friday's disturbance is going to come through Friday. I still can't see out far enough with the majority of the models to get a sense on next weekend's Mardi Gras parades. It looks great for the Centaur parade this weekend and the parades next weekend. I would bet okay at this point. All right, snow. Are we done? You can see the next 10 days from the blend of models, all goose eggs. Take a look at the various models and ensembles. Yes, they are all goose eggs. So it looks like this will take us through the first half of February almost. So that window, the rate at which we're shutting that window of opportunity on snow is going to rapidly begin to accelerate as we get past the middle of February. So chances on our side that we are done with the winter precipitation. I'm not saying it's official, but probably so. Let's take you out 2 weeks with the GFS model, and you can see it also shows all goose eggs for the ArkLaTex. So I think the days of showing these graphics are winding down here. All right, let's move on here, as we've got a lot to go through. And the next 2 weeks, here's one reason why we're not going to get any snow. Look at the temperatures from the European ensembles. Again, cool tomorrow, mid-50s, low to middle 70s Friday. They do cool us off to upper 60s Saturday, but notice almost, 10 days, 9 days, actually 10 days of temperatures mainly in the 70s for highs and upper 40s to low 50s for nighttime lows. The red line you see there, that's the normal high. The blue line is the normal low. So we're going to be well above normal here. And you're going to see that reflected in the EPS ensembles I'm going to show you here in a second in the 45-day outlook. GFS ensembles, not quite as... they do show a little bit more of a cooling trend late in the 2 week period as we move closer to Valentine's Day, 15th, 16th, 17th, that period. But still 67 in February is pretty nice. And notice, minus the chance for the freeze tomorrow night, nothing even close through the rest of the 2 week period. So is winter over? That remains the $64 million question. We'll see. Let's see who else has chimed in here. Kristen says hello from Wilton, Arkansas, north of Ashdown. Know exactly where you are, Kristen. Been there several times, at least through there. Aaron, hello there in Wright City. You're joining your friend Brad up there in WCOK. All right, let's get to grain of salt night, and we'll start off with the rainfall aspect of things. And again, what the EPS ensembles do is that they create numbers. They basically add up all the rain that it detects from the various, basically there are 50, I'll explain this again. How ensembles work is there is a certain number of members. There are 50 in this set of ensembles. So you ask all those members how much rain we're going to get. And the numbers you see here are the average of those opinions. Okay? Could be more, could be less. But you can see the red line here is the 45-day average for Shreveport, a little bit less than 7 inches. And it looks like most of the area is in line. Again, I have several locations here where that data is available. Probably going to get an inch, 5 to 5.5 inches, with maybe a little bit less in Marshall and Natchitoches. So generally speaking, expect below normal rainfall but not too bad, not as bad as we've seen at times during the fall, especially. All right, so rainfall slightly below normal here during the next 45 days. Snowfall. I took out the top line with a chance of snow, figuring, to cause issues, we got to get at least 2 inches. And so what I look up is you basically ask those 50 members, are we going to get, 2 inches of snow? And this is the percentage of those members that say yes. So you can see it's unlikely that we will see 2 inches of snow, and the cumulative snowfall from average from the various members rounds down to 0. So chances are, yes, winter is over, at least on the snow and ice front, at least on the snow front, so to speak. All right, as far as temperatures, here we go. We're going to go average lows for the next 6 weeks in Shreveport, then average highs in Shreveport for the next 6 weeks, and then we'll do the same for Texarkana. I think that's the order I put them in. The line that you see there is the normal, okay? And so what this tells you is that 44 for the week ending February 12th averages out to be above normal. So that explains normal is going higher, so that's why the bar on March 19th that week is not as high, because we're not going to be that much. In other words, the length of the bar is relative to how much above or below normal are we. So you can see it looks like average temperatures for the next 6 weeks could be warmest here over the next few weeks, and especially relative to normal. So near or above normal temperatures for lows. And again, I did quantify it to kind of give you an actual temperature instead of saying, oh, it's going to be below normal. Well, no one knows what normal is. This kind of gives you a ballpark to look at. So there you go. And does that mean every night's going to be 47 that week? No. We could have a couple nights where it's 30, but then there are a couple more nights where it's 50, and so, or 56. And so it averages out. You get my drift. All right, so here's the average highs in Shreveport for the next 6 weeks. And you can see that the EPS seeing, and actually could be a little bit underdone here for the next couple of weeks. But still, and keep in mind too that it's also factoring in the cooler temperatures for the next few days, which brings the average down for the week of the 12th. But you can see the temperatures will be averaging out in the 70s here, near or slightly above normal here for the first half of March in Shreveport. Texarkana, just a few subtle differences. Notice that lows mainly averaging out the week of the 12th, 43, the week of the 19th. That's ending on the 19th, 44. A little bit of a cool down to close February. So what this tells me is if we're going to see any chance of any more winter precip, it's going to be at the end of February. I'm not saying that we're going to. I'm just saying that's when the window of opportunity based on these temperatures may be at its highest. And you can see average 42 tells you that it's probably not going to happen. So that's what it looks like as far as lows and highs, average temperatures for the week ending the 12th, 19th, 26th, and then March 5th. And so near or above normal temperatures is pretty much the story for the next 6 weeks. And it looks like we're going to be seeing below normal rainfall. And as of right now, the EPS ensembles shows it's unlikely that we will see another sleet-mageddon, if you want to call it that, or ice-mageddon for some of you. All right, so before we get to the forecast and wrap things up, and let's see, Dylan wants to know, think we will have more normal twisters this spring? Well, we are kind of on the cusp of La Nina. Typically, when we're in La Nina, we do tend to average, we get more than average, Dylan. I have not looked at the numbers here for a couple of months, actually, so I'm kind of speaking from based on the trend. So if we enter La Nina, and I'll try to look that up here in the next couple of days, if I recall doing that, I can remember doing that. So if we settle into La Nina, which we may already have, then it will be more active, at least in terms of the number of tornadoes than normal. We tend to see fewer than normal tornadoes in El Nino. So That's one thing that gives us a little bit of a clue sometimes as to what we might think. Heard a lot about winter vortex and systems moving east. Where is the jet stream this time of year? Where the jet stream is this time of year plays a big role. Jonathan, I've seen several posts on Facebook watching the week of February 15th and then big swath of snow and ice on us. I said, what are you looking? Anyway, so right now it looks like we're going to be, there's still going to be some cold air, but it's going to be more east than here. And again, if the troughiness is east of here, we tend to be drier. If the troughiness is west of here, we get in that southwesterly flow, and we tend to be a little bit wetter. So we like to be on the, if you don't like rain, you want to be on the cold side of those troughs. Obviously, in the middle of it is the coldest. But I really don't see anything for the next few weeks, Jonathan, that would, indicate that we're going to have another big Arctic blast. But that being said, you might recall, I believe the week before that we had Ice-Mageddon, the EPS didn't see it. So just because what I just showed you doesn't see it doesn't mean it won't happen. So because what these ensembles tend to do, the farther out you go, they tend to run back to average. And you can kind of see that here, how this plays, the differences between this line at the beginning and end are much lower here at the end. All right, let's move on and show you the forecast before we wrap things up tonight. And you can see that it does look like we will turn a bit colder. 30 tonight in De Queen as you dip below freezing. Right at freezing in Hope, 34 in Texarkana. Up there in McCurtain County, close to freezing, 33 in Idabel, 39 degrees for the nighttime low tonight in Shreveport. We did see the clouds clear out this afternoon up north. Still pretty much cloudy in Shreveport right now. And then tomorrow we will see the partly cloudy sky, and it will be cooler. Normal high is now up to 60, but we'll be in the 50s tomorrow, with low to middle 50s north and generally middle 50s further to the south. 56 tomorrow in Shreveport and 54 in Texarkana. Here's my forecast for the next 10 days, and you can see it looks pretty nice for the Centaur Parade, 71, sunshine. Somebody asked me about the Gemini Parade next weekend. Jury is out. Depends on if this system can get out of here fast enough. I do think we'll probably be in the 60s, so it probably won't be quite as warm, but 65 is better than 35, right? And so we'll see if we can get some sun. But it does look nice this weekend. So that is pretty much everything that I have for you tonight. As always, I appreciate all of you watching. I'll be back tomorrow night with another live update. Of course, we'll have the details on what could happen next Friday. And maybe I'll show you the instability numbers here. I was meant to do something, look up how many different models I can pull that number from, and maybe make a graph comparing the models. So kind of give us a little bit more insight, if you will. I'll have to research that. But until tomorrow night, everyone, enjoy your Wednesday, enjoy the sunshine, and if you like it cold, enjoy the cold. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night. Good night.